By the start of October 1939, the military situation in Poland had become increasingly dire. Both Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union had completed their invasions, leading to the country's partition and occupation under two hostile regimes. The broader international community had begun to settle into a state of war readiness, as the first month of the conflict revealed the aggressive ambitions of Germany and the Soviet Union. On October 1st, key military actions, particularly in eastern Poland, highlighted the continuing but desperate Polish resistance. Military events of October 1st, 1939. The Battle of Wytyczno. On October 1st, 1939, the Battle of Wytyczno took place near the village of Wytyczno in eastern Poland. This battle involved Polish forces from the Border Defense Corps under General Wilhelm Krukman and the advancing Soviet Red Army. After a series of skirmishes in late September, Polish forces had made a strategic retreat across the Bug River, intending to continue their defense. However, they were met with overwhelming Soviet strength. In the early hours of October 1st, a Soviet tank unit launched an attack against the Polish forces. Though the Polish troops initially repelled the assault, destroying several Soviet tanks, they were eventually overwhelmed by the Soviet superior numbers and artillery. The battle, which began around 1 a.m., continued through the morning. By 9 a.m., the Polish forces were running low on ammunition, and at noon, they decided to withdraw into the nearby forests to regroup with other Polish units. This marked one of the last organized efforts by Polish forces in eastern Poland to resist the Soviet invasion. The battle was a small but symbolic defense, exemplifying the fierce determination of Polish forces even in the face of overwhelming odds. However, the outcome underscored the devastating consequences of Poland's geographical and military isolation after the German-Soviet partition. Diplomatic and geopolitical developments. While the military situation in Poland was rapidly deteriorating, the broader geopolitical landscape was also shifting. The Nazi-Soviet Pact, formalized by the German-Soviet Boundary and Friendship Treaty on September 28, created a new axis of collaboration between two of the world's most powerful authoritarian regimes. This alliance left Poland without significant external support, despite earlier assurances from Britain and France. On October 1st, diplomatic efforts in London and Paris focused on organizing a more coherent Allied strategy. The fall of Poland forced British and French leaders to reconsider their passive stance in the opening weeks of the war, often referred to as the Phony War. Allied diplomats engaged in high-level discussions about preparing for potential future confrontations with Germany. However, the harsh reality remained. Poland had been left largely isolated, a victim of international realpolitik. In addition, as Poland's collapse became clearer, neutral countries across Europe continued to reassess their positions. Nations like Switzerland, Belgium, and the Netherlands reinforced their neutrality, hoping to avoid direct involvement in the rapidly expanding conflict. International reactions and media coverage. By October 1, 1939, the global media began reflecting on the catastrophic fall of Poland and the implications of the German-Soviet alliance. British newspapers, such as The Times, condemned the brutal occupation of Poland, while French publications echoed sentiments of shock and concern over the rapidity of Poland's collapse. Public opinion in both Britain and France was increasingly critical of the lack of concrete action from their governments during the invasion, as citizens began to demand more robust military responses. In the United States, where isolationism remained strong, newspapers focused on the humanitarian disaster unfolding in Poland and the moral implications of Nazi and Soviet aggression. The New York Times and other major American outlets published detailed reports on the battles in Poland, the suffering of civilians, and the beginning of large-scale deportations under the Soviet occupation. The global public was increasingly attuned to the horrors of the war, although direct intervention by many neutral countries was still not on the table. Looking forward, the impacts of October 1, 1939. The events of October 1, 1939, marked a critical moment in the Polish campaign and highlighted the desperate situation for the remaining Polish forces. While battles like Wytyczno showcased the courage and resolve of Polish defenders, they also revealed the futility of further organized military resistance against the overwhelming German and Soviet occupiers. Looking ahead, The consequences of this day would reverberate throughout the coming months and years. The partition of Poland not only marked the first of many territorial adjustments in Europe, but also solidified the relationship between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, two powers that would later turn on each other. Meanwhile, for the Polish people, this day symbolized the beginning of a long and brutal occupation that would not end until 1945. Internationally, the occupation of Poland and the events of October 1st served as a grim reminder of the stakes of World War II. As Poland was swallowed by two aggressive powers, the world was left to contemplate the possibility of further territorial expansion by both Germany and the Soviet Union. For the Allied powers, the events of early October highlighted the urgent need for a more coordinated and aggressive approach to the war, setting the stage for larger-scale military engagements in 1940. In the immediate aftermath of October 1st, the focus would shift to consolidating occupation, preparing resistance, and, for the Allies, figuring out how to respond to a world quickly spiraling out of control. The next days and months would see the war shift into a new phase, as more countries were drawn into the conflict and the global implications of the partition became clearer.